the investigation of the allegations of Chief former Chief Paul Prime. I want to open up this meeting to Councilman Reynolds and Wood. Yeah, we're going to open up this meeting to Councilman Reynolds and Woods, and let us know what you all had came up with. And after that, our attorney, if you have anything behind that.
Sure, Mr. President. Thank you. I appreciate it. And our search is hopefully drawing nearer to a close with selecting, or at least putting two firms forward for the committee as a whole to consider. Still working through some budget items. From one of the parties, we've gotten a very thorough conflict report. But we're not to a point where we've received everything that we're comfortable enough to put forward as part of this resolution. So in an effort to accomplish what we can, our previous committee meeting as a whole, everybody sort of gave their thoughts. Councilman Woods gave his very timely input to the 4 categories of investigation. Mr. Linder has done a fantastic job here in enumerating them. And I just want to take a minute here to just read them, if that's okay with you, Mr. President. I'm just going to read this whole thing. Okay. This is a resolution pursuant to City Council Resolution 6372, setting scope and topics for investigation into public allegations made by Mobile Police Department Chief Paul Prine and naming special counsel to conduct investigation. Whereas on April 30th, 2024, the Mobile City Council passed Resolution 6372, authorizing an investigation into public allegations made by former Mobile Police Department Chief Paul Prine. And whereas that resolution appointed the Council Committee of the Whole to direct said investigation, and whereas the Council Committee of the Whole met on May 7th to discuss topics including the scope and specific topics for any third party outside special counsel to investigate, and whereas time being of the essence, the Council Committee of the Whole has solicited and reviewed proposals for outside third party attorneys licensed in the state of Alabama to conduct said investigation. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Council as follows. There will be 4 basic factual areas for a third party retained special counsel to investigate and report back to the City Council on A, the circumstances regarding the engagement of 321Z Insights by the City of Mobile, the City of Mobile Police Department, and or the Gulf Coast Technology Center to conduct a review of the, this is an error, it says Echo Spot, it should be Echo Stop program, including how and why the contract for same was solicited and presented to the council, and any internal or peer review as to same done by or at the request of GCTC. B, issues related to the chain of command at Gulf Coast Technology Center, also often referred to as MPD Cyber, and allegations that the chief of police was improperly cut out of or else unable to use GCTC resources. C, the circumstances surrounding the alleged breakdown of relations between the city administration and Chief Prine on or about November 2023 and leading up to and including discussions between the city administration, and Chief Prine on or about April 2024 regarding his proposed retirement or resignation. And D, any allegations made by Chief Prine that written grievances filed or submitted by him were not properly addressed or investigated. Number 2, in investigating any and all of these factual areas, the special counsel shall only investigate those matters which, if true, would constitute illegal, unethical, or out of policy behavior. In doing so, the special counsel should, in every instance, in accord with best investigatory practices, identify anyone who, A, committed an alleged violation, B, precisely what the violation allegedly was, C, precisely what law, regulation, procedure, standard, or practice, or city policy was allegedly violated, and D, precisely when and where such alleged violation occurred. Number 3, special counsel's factual scope and remit is limited to the matters contained above in paragraphs 1 and 2. Should the special counsel, in the course of conducting its investigation, uncover additional allegations or issues that do not fit within the scope of the investigation as described herein, the special counsel is not to pursue or report to the council on any such allegations. The special counsel, however, consistent with its legal and ethical duties, shall separately report any such allegations or issues to the proper investigatory authorities, state or federal, in the event said allegations or issues would constitute illegal or unethical behavior. Number 4, the total budget for the investigation described herein shall be $100,000. Number 5, the investigation and written report of the special counsel shall be completed and submitted to the council within 45 days of the special counsel being named. You got that, Michael?
Yeah.
Within 45 days of the special counsel being named. If for any reason at any time within that 45-day period, either the budget or timeline for the investigation and report turns out to be inadequate, in the opinion of the special counsel, he shall inform the council immediately so that the council may consider same and take additional action if warranted. I would suggest it would be, he shall inform the council committee as a whole. Which I guess is the investigatory committee. Okay, so that's what this resolution said. Thank you, Michael, for preparing it. Thank you, Mr. Daves, for your input and everybody else's as well. As far as where we're at with selecting someone, like I said, we hope to have somebody or 2 groups that we can put forward for everybody to consider. And the idea of introducing this today was in an effort to put the information out there to you all so you can go get whatever feedback you'd like, so you'd be prepared to offer any amendments to this for next week so we can pass it and get on with conducting this investigation. You got anything, Mr. Woods?
I'll just echo kind of on the tail end of where we're at as far as, I guess, engaging somebody or working towards engaging. Right now, one has came back with a pretty substantial or pretty intense letter. I think this morning, I guess, right? And waiting on the other one to come back. And then also waiting for kind of final numbers is working through a budget to kind of see where each lands at, just so that there's an overall knowledge of how we pursue and where we go with that. So.
Michael, did you want to add anything to Mr. Leonard? I'm sorry.
I think Ben and Josh have covered it.
Okay. Start with Vice President. Anything?
No, just a question for Josh and Ben. Both the groups that you all have been talking to are interested and do intend to provide the documents so that we then will decide among ourselves. I mean, is that what you foresee happening?
Best we can tell. Mr. Linder has certainly been very helpful in discussing, this document as well as the previous resolution with them, and sort of the need to be transparent with the entire process and clearly identifying any conflict whatsoever in regards to the city of Mobile, the mayor, chief of staff, the public safety director, Ricardo Woods, Chief Bryan, all of them. They're all, looking at them as a whole in their conflict review. So, I think that's been told to them quite clearly that we want to know where any conflict exists, if there are any. So it's pretty detailed request that we've made. And I think they're going to engage, but we'll see. And, we still have to overcome the budgetary constraints and all that sort of stuff as well.
Right. Okay. I was just going to follow up and ask whether you see big differences between the two.
Well, we don't have the complete
Right,
record. And like I said, I think the 2 firms, that are under consideration currently, and that doesn't mean that it can't be someone else. We've requested their ability to conduct it, the investigation, their experience relative to it, their conflict that may or may not exist, and also their cost associated with it from them in a very detailed manner. We haven't gotten it all yet, where we can into a form where we feel like it's right to put forward to the committee as a whole for everybody to consider. We want to try to turn over something that's a complete,
But you think it's forthcoming?
I certainly hope so. Yeah, it's forthcoming enough to introduce this resolution today.
So this will be on the agenda again next week. So you think maybe a contract would be following fairly soon to hire?
I would hope so. Well, Mr. Linder, you've been talking to these guys as much as anybody.
Like I said, we're talking to a couple of firms. They're both interested. We're working out some of the details. The budget thing is going to be, I think, one of the primary things we have to focus on here. My proposal would be, and I need to get with the clerk's office about how this has been done in the past, but I think the resolution authorizes us and can authorize us to enter into a reasonable contract with them. And at that point, it'd just be subject to a review on that, just make sure that the terms are reasonable, standard, and we would go from there. But the resolution pegs the 45-day reporting date to whenever we actually name a special counsel. Yeah. Although I'm sure in good faith they could start. Indeed, I think even if just to sort of make intelligent contributions to the hiring process, I think they've already sort of done some work, background, if you will, on all of this. So.
Ms. Gregory. Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was going to ask those same questions, but you answered it. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to make one comment. When Josh or Councilman Woods and I were asked, or tasked with this, we, at least me, and I'm sure Councilman Woods sees the same way, that we weren't tasked with leading an investigation. I want to make that clear, that Councilman Woods and I are not leading an investigation. We were tasked with sourcing some folks that could conduct this investigation. So I don't want, as we proceed through this process, the council to sort of defer to Councilman Woods and I as if we're leading this investigation. We are simply just doing our part and trying to move the ball forward with trying to find somebody who is capable of doing the job. And so I just want to make that clear.
Out of all fairness, Councilman Carroll, myself, had introduced this to the council. And so I just wanted two other council members to, bring back forth recommendation for this council. So that's how things worked out, just for the public would know. But to make sure it's fair all across the board. It's not no one-sided thing. Okay. Councilman Carroll.
Don't get nervous, Mr. Brooks. We got your back, at least on this one. What's the holdup? What's your impasse to where we can't get a council in?
I think it's imperative that the committee as a whole has more than one option to put forward. As we found, as you weigh these firms, some may have more experience than the others. Some may have, a cheaper budget than the others. Some may have less potential for conflict than the others. So, I guess it's just trying to find the two candidates that we feel like we could put forward, that there's a choice amongst the committee, where it's not Councilman Reynolds and Woods have sort of mandated, that it is this only one. So I guess that's the holdup. We haven't received the complete record of each party at this point to put forward. That's the only holdup.
How much longer?
I hope to be able to vote on this on Monday, but there's obviously Tuesday. There's ongoing discussions currently, in discussing budget numbers and so on and so forth.
Just to remind you that you withheld unanimous consent when I said let's push the other ordinance through and hire an attorney later. So you're about to go down that same rabbit hole Are you suggesting that before this passes next week, we'll have a council in place?
That would be my goal, and that was the intent, so that we could stay within the council rules. The intent of offering it up today, which it's now gone through its first read, so we'll be prepared to act within our ordinary, course of business next week if somebody were to be added or offered as an amendment to this existing resolution.
How many firms have you narrowed it down to?
2.
Okay. So, I mean, right now, we could actually vote on one of those 2 firms based on you two's knowledge that we have, correct?
You mean on Tuesday?
I mean, based on the knowledge of the firm right now and all the information that you have, we could probably vote or make a decision today on which firm we wanted to engage with.
I don't think so. I mean, we'd have to adopt a budget. I think there's still some budget discussions that need to be had.
With whom? With the committee?
If y'all want to have another committee meeting, we certainly can.
So,
The resolution is introduced as a budget of $100,000. So any, an amendment could certainly be offered to that effect.
so most firms would exceed that budget amount anyway, plus expenses, because the budget's somewhat light, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying there's 2 firms that are possibilities,
Have they given you a budgetary number yet?
not both of them. Taking our best stab at setting a budget, but also keep in mind, there's the ability to amend this next week, and there's also the sort of catch-all statement in here that the council being named, if for any reason at any time within that 45-day period, either the budget or timeline for the investigation and report turns out to be inadequate, in the opinion of the special counsel, he shall inform council committee as a whole immediately so that the council may consider the same. So that would be the time for those.
I'm hoping that the 2 of you would choose the best qualified firm as opposed to wrestling with dollars and cents. If $25,000 or $50,000 is going to be a determining factor over the best possible person, I think you need to be picking, or you should be, or would be recommending the best firm as opposed to the best dollar value.
Sure. Like I said, our intent is to introduce 2.
The objectivity.
Hopefully both of them will be budget friendly for the taxpayer.
Objectivity is more what I'm interested in. The firm that's going to be the best and will be as objective as possible.
And that's to Councilman Carroll's comment about objectivity. That's one of the primary things that we're waiting on is the other response of one of the firms, just to ensure their objectivity. And I think kind of just the way I know I was kind of looking at it is just come to the table with everything. Here's the objectivity of each, weigh those, and then also because it's been a lot of discussion lately about dollars and cents. That at least we could have some sort of, knowledge of where this goes. Not saying that's the holding it up. We're not choosing, this versus this based on the dollars and cents, but just some sort of overarching knowledge of, what that road looks like.
And, got to be considerate of all council people as well. We've got Councilman Daves, who has illustrated a strong desire to keep a, somewhat cap on, expenses. So we're trying to be considerate of all views.
Mr.
Although I'm
Reynolds,
sure we're not going to land it perfectly.
Mr. Reynolds, I'm only one of 7. Just one of 7. May I remind the council of that? But I don't want to get into a wrestling match over dollars and cents and we can't move forward. Let's pick somebody and move on.
Done, Mr. Carr?
Yes.
Mr. Days?
I don't have any questions. I would like to thank Councilman Woods and Reynolds for picking up this hot potato and moving it forward. And I know you're appreciate the due diligence that you both are devoting to this task. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. Woods and Mr. Reynolds, do you think we can narrow this down by next Tuesday?
Yes.
That's what we're shooting for.
Yes.
So to this council, would y'all like to meet at 8:30?
It's fine with me.
Core,
Yeah, I'm fine with
Woods, Joe?
I think out of, in all fairness to these firms, I think, as we have our discussions, I mean, we shouldn't be maybe naming the firms and then, weighing them, good, comparing the 2 sort of in the public. I don't think that's fair to the firms.
if you get the rest of your information in prior to next Tuesday, if you can share it with us,
Mm.
then there may be a way to narrow it down
Sure.
at that point.
Do you have any suggestion on how we should handle that? You know,
Look, if we want to get this done by Tuesday, I'll share with council everything that we do going forward. We'll just make sure everybody's copied in the loop on that. But in fact, I'm supposed to talk to a couple of these people this afternoon.
If you can just put it into an email loop and Josh and, excuse me, Councilman Woods or Reynolds, even with y'all inputs and sort of Friday, at least by Friday, and we'll have 3 days to look at it before Tuesday morning, okay? Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, okay? Anything else from this council? Okay. If not, Mr. Woods.
Thank you, Mr. President. So two things. One is want to make sure that everybody understands that, the scope of this investigation was well within the council's authority. I thought nobody's challenging that. Also want to remind everybody in that same scope that, Zogby still applies. So, no directives can be given by special counsel or anybody else in their service to the employees. And I say that only because we're going to be able to give access to the employees to answer questions and things of that sort. But we still have to make sure we're protecting the employees, both in an employment setting and making sure that we're not putting them under some undue level of stress or exposure. I say that to say most of this is just fine. In fact, what you all have done with this paragraph 2, committed an alleged violation and precisely what it is, very precise. And focuses on violations and practices, policies, procedures, which is typical for an investigation, a good one anyway. That, however, seems to be somewhat in conflict with 1C, the circumstances surrounding the alleged breakdown of relations between the city administration and Chief Bryan on about November. Why it's limited to that scope, I think I know why. And then the second part of that is, and leading up to and including discussions between the city administration and Chief Bryan on about April 2024. That is probably going to be a lot broader than you all intended this scope to be. I say that because, as my father would often say, we in this room, we probably know more about the circumstances, council included, of how the city works and how it operates. If you've got a third party coming into this cold and blind, right? One, it's going to take them a lot longer to get up to speed on circumstances surrounding. Two, the broadness of that is going to impact more than just the people in the administration. It could keep going and going and going. That $100,000 is going to go real fast if that scope isn't limited. And it's going to include a lot more people than just the decision makers in that scope. I don't know if it was intended to be that way, but I'm looking at it and knowing what I know about the previous investigations we've done, I just caution you on that.
Any comments, council? No. Okay. All right. We'll see each other at 8:30 on Tuesday morning.
leading up to is broad.